got Bryce thinking.
What's happening, Rich? How we doing?
All right, man.
Rough week, but we'll get into that in a minute. We're waiting for we have a guest tonight. Very interesting. But how are you after open mic last night? Little drama. It kind of woke me up, Rich. Kind of got me back into the whole thing of, all right, it's safe to debate again. We can talk, we can nibble, we can bark at each other. It kind of woke me up, like after it just woke me up. So that's good.
It really, it threw me to a degree because it's not like it's breaking news about my opinion on Derek Jeter. It's not like that's the first time I ever said that. And I think I'm in the majority with Anthony Volpe that he is horrible. So I don't think that's breaking news either. Some of the other stuff that got brought into, I was like, okay, I'll let that slide. But the other part of what happened, when you get in debates, you and I get into debates, especially about a certain head coach of the Steelers. That some people think get a little heated. It's not heated. Trust me, folks.
Right.
Trust me, it ain't heated.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I've been in heated conversations with people on the air and that kind of thing, and this is nothing.
No, but if you want to see Rich, for real, if you want to see a really good heated debate, go check out the MLB on the Horizon with me. I was the host. Lanny Fratteri, Jason Grilli was there. Matt Trigger was there. Josh Murrow was there. It wound up. You want to talk about it? You want to talk about interesting debate show? It was just kind of like we had duct tape on our mouths and we couldn't say a word between those two. But that was a true heated debate. I mean, you could ask Matt about it. It was just ugly, Rich.
It was. I mean, you had me watch it shortly after you and I started doing this together. But it does happen. I mean, the best of them. I've seen Kornheiser and Wilbon get into heated talks every now and then. They've been doing this, close to 30 years now? And they're the best in the business as far as I'm concerned. Okay. Yeah, it wasn't a big, to me, it wasn't a major thing. Like I told you off air, I just decided I was going to take the high road because somebody else was taking the other road, and I wasn't going to have both of us go that road. So,
Rich, did you get an introduction for our guest or no? Should we just bring him in? I didn't even ask him because we were having a little fun backstage. I didn't even ask him.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's pop him in. Hey, Bryce, you still hanging out back there, man?
I'm here, guys.
What's happening, Bryce? Bryce, Seattle fan. Go ahead, Bryce. Explain to our audience who you are.
So I run the Hawk Zone, not the Hawk Zone. Used to be affiliated with the Hawk Zone Rundown podcast, but I actually run the Hawk's Eye podcast now. Seattle football fan, analyst, blogger / podcaster for fieldgoals.com, and as well football coach. Played college football, played the quarterback position, played it for 25 years of playing quarterback and played Div 2 NCAA football. So that's kind of it. And basically grew up a Seahawks fan, fell in love with the Seahawks back when they were in the AFC playing in the Kingdom. And about a year or so ago, 2 years ago, decided to start getting in the podcasting world because I wanted to kind of just get my voice out there and interact with fans that had a like-minded sense of football. So that's kind of how it all started.
You're kind of like me on how you got started. my buddy canceled and they called me and said, "Hey, you want to come down and talk sports?" I was like, "Sure," and it just went from there. Like it would, I thought this was a whole different world. I didn't know it was just this easy.
Yeah, right.
Like if I would have known that, like I always looked at people on the radio and was like, "Holy cow!" Like how do they do this? Like now I see, like, oh my, like I see, like I don't know. And we're live. We're live to many people right now.
Well, I got news for you. It ain't that easy. The show prep you have to put in, things like that. And should I do this just for Jamie, Adam? Should I do it just for Jamie?
Go ahead. Why not?
So, Bryce, I'm 20-year radio guy.
Okay.
Most of it in sports radio, but 21-year sports guy. 21-year radio guy. So I get it. I've done everything from sweeping the floors to running the joint. And but been on air a large chunk of it and that kind of deal. And I get it, man. I 100% get it whenever you're talking about show prep and all that kind of stuff. This is different because you're not necessarily doing as long.
Right.
When you're doing a talk show, most of them are 2 to 4 hours. So you've got, they always tell you want to do an hour of prep for every hour you're on the air. And most of your podcasts are an hour. There's some that go a little longer. And then when you're doing it 5 days a week, on top of that, it even makes it even crazier. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, this is something that Adam hit me up. We were on a Facebook group together. And Adam hit me up. He said, "Hey, you want to hop onto this thing and do a little something?" Sure, why not? That's how I got started from my end. So then we do this, and then we have the open mic thing on Tuesday.
Yeah, it's an interesting world now with this because, like, you can basically, as long as you get a mic, pay for a StreamYard, or don't even pay. You don't have to. You can do the free version of it and basically start recording and start setting up. And to your point, like, for me, like, yeah, it's the max my show's ever gone on a live stream is like 2 hours, but for like a good 45 minutes of that, it's interacting with people in the comments that come in, and you don't really have a script you're sticking to just to fill that time void. Like, you have some basic key rundown topic points you want to talk about. And like, I produce content as daily as I can. And it gets to a point sometimes where you're like, okay, what do I talk about today? That, because you don't want to really talk about that stuff a whole bunch of other people have talked about. And there's Cole, one of my listeners on the other side, coming over, which is great. But yeah, it's a different world. I appreciate the world because I think the more that shows like this, like your guys' show, my show, and these communities start to grow and develop, I think it gives people the other perspective of not just the media guys that are kind of covering the team right there and giving their perspective. You're kind of getting that fan appreciation of their love and view of the team that sometimes I think gets missed in the national media and even in the team covered because they're only allowed to say certain things and report on certain things. And I think that's where stuff like what we're doing here is great.
Yeah, when you got to do the company line, you can't say anything negative about the team and that kind of stuff. That's one of the things I do like about. I'm actually in Waco, Texas, and I've been listening to and a part of 105.3 The Fan in Dallas for a long time. I've gotten to know those guys really well, and one of the things that they do, they're the flagship for the Cowboys, but they also don't pull punches. And they have Jerry on every week, and they have Stephen Jones, his son, on every week, and they have the coach on every week, whether it's been Callahan or Holmgren or whoever it's been. But they don't toe the company line. But a lot of these teams that are the flag and that kind of deal, you can tell.
Yeah.
You can certainly tell.
Yeah, no, and it makes it tough sometimes because I feel like, when that was the main kind of source of information, it, made it more difficult. Now you're starting to get more podcasters involved in the media and they aren't affiliated necessarily with the team directly. Like I know Grant Cohen that's with the 49ers and stuff, like he's a podcaster and does his own thing. And Grant's got some definitely different opinions than the mainstream guys, which is kind of nice in some respects. Sometimes he's a little out there, but it makes things a little bit more interesting, I think, and gives people a broader picture of what's going on with their favorite team.
Now, Grant, what shows do you do real quick? I don't know any. I just was looking for Seahawk podcasters. Obviously, the Steelers were playing them last week. So I was just looking for podcasters that would want to come on and talk the show. I don't know. I mean, obviously, we know we missed our show last week with it, but, we can still talk about the game. Obviously, Bill Anderson has moved on already to the Hawks whooping New Orleans ass 34-13. I don't even see New Orleans putting up a 13 spot on that.
Yeah, well, if we talk about what happened last week in the Seahawks Steelers game, like for me, I had it when I did my like preview show and prediction show for the season. I thought it was going to be a close game. I thought, it could go kind of almost like a coin flip game. The Steelers are usually a really good team at home. That's a tough initial road test for Seattle, especially after coming off the 49ers and the defensive front. Yeah,
I have a stat on that. I saw something that the Seahawks are 20-4 on East Coast games. Like,
yeah,
I don't know how they talk about the hours change and all that, but then when I heard that, I'm like, maybe they get here early enough to like adjust and I wasn't sure. And now with Mike McDonald even as your head coach, being a Baltimore guy for all those years, I'm sure he had some deeper pissed offness on this game than anything. But
yeah, it was I think the biggest thing is Seattle, I believe, now leaves on Thursdays for their East Coast games. So they get their Friday or late Thursday. They have Friday and Saturday to get adjusted. And then they're playing on Sunday. And that's something that changed midway through Carroll's kind of, started with the Legion of Boom days with Carroll, where they started to struggle initially on the road, especially in the Eastern time zone, the 10 a.m. start. So Carroll kind of pushed them to, hey, let's go a little earlier. Let's go a day earlier so these guys can get adjusted. They've just kept with that philosophy now. And the thing for me was when I looked at the game, I went, you guys have TJ Watt. And when I looked at it initially, you have Highsmith on the edge. I went, we've got a new offensive line we're piecing together here. We got, yes, two good tackles in Lucas and Cross, but I was worried about that because that's Nick Bosa and the 49ers defensive front week 1, which is not an easy one. And then we're coming right back and going to Pittsburgh to play you guys. So for me, I was like, this game's going to really come down to, can Seattle play mistake free, which in the first half, I was very, very concerned when that ended after Sam Darnold threw his 2 interceptions. And it was going to be, can you kind of withstand and find a way to capitalize on some of the things that Rodgers may give you learning through this offense? And the thing, and I said it, before we came on the air here, the biggest thing for me that changed this game was that special teams blunder on the one kickoff. That changed everything, because at that point, prior to that,
I thought it was the interception in the end zone that Rodgers threw, even though it was a tie game. But I thought that was kind of like the turning point.
Yeah, that from your guys' perspective,
just because the emotion was starting to rise, and then all of a sudden, we're on the 8-yard line, and 8 throws an interception to 8, and it was just like that kind of drained me. Like the kick really didn't do much to me, but the interception I felt was like a turning point.
Yeah, that was another one I would definitely say. The thing with the kickoff, though, I think that was so weird about it was it being 7 points, right? Like the whole way, that whole sequence of events from your returner, like kind of thinking the ball's going to be dead the minute it hits the end zone, but because of the new kicking rules, that all changes, and special teams are now becoming a factor again, which is kind of nice, even though they're weirdly a factor with the new rules and everything. But after that, I felt then like, okay, now we obviously kicking the ball off again. Now, if we go get this 3 and out and we can score again, that puts this game completely out of reach for Rodgers to have to come all the way back down multiple scores and get into that range. And it lets our defensive pass rush, which to me is getting better this year than it was last year. Boy Mafe, Derek Hall, Leonard Williams, I don't think is human currently the way he's playing. And Byron Murphy is, now becoming a guy that, I think is going to become more and more of a nightmare for defense or offenses to deal with in the middle of this defense. So, it'll be
his first sack, right?
Yeah, it's his second year now, but yeah, he was his first sack and a half, I guess, is what he actually got, which was really good because last year they had him playing so much nose tackle that he wasn't nearly the pass rusher that we thought he was going to be coming out of the draft when we got him. I honestly, and this was my whole thing, I was so worried about our, Calvin, for you guys, I think it's Calvin Austin, really tearing apart our slot nickel defender because we didn't have Devin Witherspoon or Nick Eamon-Worry, our rookie that we drafted this year out of South Carolina, to man that. I was like, okay, Rogers is just going to pick them apart there and take advantage of that. And it was weird that I didn't see that really from the Steelers game plan this week.
No, it seemed like they were trying to go back to the run game a little bit, which it succeeded, but it didn't really help.
No,
and it seems like, and this has happened a number of times when someone leaves Dallas. DeMarcus Lawrence was a ghost, has been a ghost since he signed with Seattle. Nothing that I wasn't expecting, because this is the same guy that signed his contract his extension in Dallas, and 4 days later he's on operating table having shoulder surgery. It's going to take him eight months to get healed up from, and he missed half a season. But he wasn't going to get the surgery done until he had the contract extension. But are you guys looking at him as a complete disappointment, or are you looking at, there's glimmers of hope here and there?
It's interesting with DeMarcus Lawrence, because when I look at what they brought him in to do, he's doing really well I actually think kind of the opposite with DeMarcus Lawrence. I didn't think he was going to come in and be a pass rusher guy for us. I thought the great thing about DeMarcus Lawrence was they were bringing him in to be a run edge setter, which he's done a fantastic job of doing. And he takes a bit of the pressure off of Leonard Williams having to play first and second down in the run game. That's kind of what they brought him in. They have Hall, they have Boye Mafe for their edge rush. They just got Chenna Nwosu back, who was basically been on IR, and which is where I think they brought Lawrence in was, okay, if Chenna can't come back and be a factor as a run-setting edge for us, we need somebody else that can, because when Chenna got hurt last year for us, our run defense on the edge just fell apart. Like, Boye Mafe and Derek Hall were not guys that could really step in and fill that void. So, like, DeMarcus Lawrence, for what he's being asked to do now within Seattle's scheme, I think he's doing just fine for what they're paying him to do. If people thought that he was going to come here and, start lighting up the sack sheet, I never anticipated that, and I think that's a misguided thing. That wasn't even what he was doing, the last couple of years in Dallas. He really was, focused solely on the run, and when he was healthy, he was a good run defender for you guys, but it was staying healthy, and that's still going to be the thing for him.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm the biggest Cowboys hater in Texas, but I also understand certain things, and I follow the game. Before he had that shoulder surgery, Tank Lawrence was one of the best defensive end pass rushers in the league. You had him top 5, maybe top 10 at the worst, top 5 maybe for a couple of years there. But then when he had that shoulder surgery, it seems like you said, he focused more on the run. I think part of that is because he doesn't have to use that arm as much, especially for swim moves and things like that. But I like what y'all's defense looks like, especially your front seven. I'm a big fan of what you got sitting there. Defensive backs, I mean, you're banged up, which is kind of tough to make it's tough to make a valid opinion on something whenever you got the guys you're supposed to see banged up.
Bryce, I forget the lady who picked Seattle to win and also said Seattle will be a top 5 defense by the end of the year.
Mina Kimes.
Is that her name? Black hair
with
chick?
ESPN? Yeah, with ESPN. Yeah, Mina Kimes. Yeah,
I forgot her name. I was watching it and I was like, oh, I forgot her name. But yeah, were you surprised by that, or is this defense really going to be that good?
This defense, I think, will be that good. And the reason I say that is they have a lot of the right pieces. They're returning, I think, out of the 15 guys that started games last year, they returned 12 of them this year. So the guys that we lost weren't massive, losses. One was Rayshawn Jenkins. The other one was Draymond Jones. You've replaced that, I think, with a better player. Draymond Jones' role basically is what DeMarcus Lawrence is playing now, and I think DeMarcus Lawrence is a better player than Draymond Jones. And you drafted Nick Eamon-Worry to replace Rayshawn Jenkins for your third safety and kind of your big nickel stuff. I think the biggest thing for Seattle, for me, that scares me with their defense is if we're to lose one of our two inside linebackers in Ernest Jones or Tyrese Knight, our depth at inside linebacker is suspect at best right now. Like Drake Thomas is playing there, and Drake Thomas is a fine depth linebacker, but he's not someone I think you can. And when I say depth linebacker, I mean a guy, okay, comes in for 15 sub package plays a game, contributes on special teams, awesome. I look at guys when I start looking at depth and I start looking, okay, how are we going to handle if we lose Ernest Jones for 3 weeks? How much is this defense going to be an issue? And last year for us, the problem was we signed Tyrell Dotson and Jerome Baker in the offseason. And everyone was like, okay, cool. We've let go of Bobby Wagner. Jordan Brooks has gone to Miami. Okay, this is the thing. And the thing was, for a lot of us, we didn't know what Mike McDonald's defense really was going to be like last year. Well, the first half of the year, we struggled. It was not adding up to what we had seen in Baltimore. There were a lot of different issues. And then all of a sudden come week 8, the trade deadline, boom. Tyrell Dotson, Jerome Baker are cut. Tyrese Knight, who's a rookie, is now starting, and they traded for Ernest Jones. Well, the back half of our season, we turned into a top 10 NFL defense. And it was kind of like, okay, so all we really did was sub out 2 inside linebackers and got guys that fit what Mike McDonald really wanted. Lo and behold, our defense turned on its head and we started playing really good. And that's where I look at now. You've kept those guys. You've now drafted. Again, this is Mike McDonald's second year. He's had a full offseason. And that's one thing, too, with last year's offseason. He was hired so late in that coaching cycle because of how far Baltimore had gotten in that playoff run. And he kind of got hamstrung, I think, in some respects with how much influence he could have over, obviously, the offseason acquisitions, even the draft. This year, he was fully invested. And, being around the team and stuff, like, you could tell that Mike McDonald, like, he had massive scouting reports. He was down at Senior Bowl. Like, this is now Mike McDonald's team. It's not the carryover season that you see sometimes with these coaching changes. And now with this defense, I think you're starting to see they're already playing fast. They're already considered one of the better units this year in the first 2 weeks. And I only think it's going to get better as long as they can stay healthy in the right spots.
Yeah, and when you flip to the other side of the field, you're looking at brand new quarterback in Sam Darnold coming off of a career year for him. I don't care what anybody else says; it's a career year for him. You draft Jalen Milroe out of Alabama. You've got the combo of Walker and Charbonnet in the backfield, which I think is a really good combo. Whether you're focusing on one or the other, it's a good combo of that. But the receiver end of things, when you find out Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to be your number one, because you bring in Cooper Kupp, who I think has seen his better days in the rearview mirror. How nervous were you whenever you think, okay, JSN's our number one now?
I wasn't nervous about JSN being a number one because he'd practically been that over the second half of last season for us because DK got nicked up in the Atlanta Falcons game, never really was full strength. Tyler Lockett wasn't the guy he had been in the past. So JSN really kind of had to almost be the guy inadvertently prior to this season. That wasn't what worried me. What worried me was, okay, what are you putting around JSN? So it's not every team in the world knows, okay, JSN's the only viable option in Seattle, and teams are going to bracket him. They're going to find ways to take him away with, the 2-eye safety looks and different things. And so when they signed Cooper Kupp after we traded DK to you guys, I never expected Cooper Kupp to be 2021 Cooper Kupp. That's not my expectation of him. What I expect Cooper Kupp to come in and be is kind of what he was in this game versus you guys, which is 7 catches, 90 yards, a lot of yak yards, but kind of that guy that can run those third down conversion routes just past the sticks and be that savvy route runner, sit in those zones, especially when they hired Clint Kubiak to be the OC. That was the thing that was so interesting is Clint Kubiak comes in, and now you go get a guy that understands the system from a receiver perspective, probably better than anybody in the NFL because he's been with it with Sean McVay his entire career. And now he gets to teach JSN kind of, he gives that, I think in some respects, better role model for JSN game-wise. Things that JSN will do well will be very similar to what Cooper's already done well and learn that. And then the thing for me was, okay, so you've now got Cooper Kupp. I expect Cooper Kupp to be a good complementary piece. But now what are we looking at? We have Jake Bobo, Derek Young. We signed MVS, Scantling. And I went, okay, I'm really interested to see how this group's going to look in training camp because this is just a weird collection of guys. And the tight end group,
You
we
let
had Noah
Disley
Fant.
walk.
Disley's gone. Noah Fant was, still in there for the first little bit of, just before camp, and then they cut Noah Fant. And you had AJ Barner, who was coming off a pretty good rookie year. And then it was like, okay, in the draft, they go out and get a weapon tight end in Elijah Arroyo out of Miami. And I went, now I'm starting to see how this is going to be put together. And then I had said on my pre-draft stuff that I figured Seattle was going to take a shot on a receiver at some point in this draft. They needed to. They just don't have a room of guys that are going to kind of fill in. Like, you got Jake Bobo, who's on like a 1-year deal. You got Derek Young on a 1-year deal. Like, you got all these 1-year deal guys. And then you got Cooper Kupp, who's aging out eventually over maybe the next 2, 3. And you got JSN, who is going to be your guy, but what else is in the cupboard, kind of a thing. And then they drafted Torrey Horton out of Colorado State. And that one, I was surprised he was still there. And he fell because of an injury. But when he played, he was one of the few receivers that ran circles around Travis Hunter in the game that they had matched up. Like, Travis Hunter couldn't stop Torrey Horton. So I went, okay, if his injuries check out and everything, great, sneaky pick. And then sure enough, he made it healthy through training camp. And Torrey Horton's kind of been that third X factor missing piece. But the Clint Kubiak thing made it really interesting because there isn't a lot of, 11 personnel in his sets. There's not a lot of 3 receiver, 4 receiver stuff. There's a lot of tight end stuff. And that's where the AJ Barner, Elijah Raro combo really became interesting to me. And the condensed splits that they use in this offense with JSN and Cooper Kupp, where they don't line up out by the numbers, they kind of bring them in, and now you give them more options with their routes.
I'm learning more about Seattle every minute here. I've been there once. I'm not gonna. I'll tell you the truth. I've been there once. I went to a Mariners game, but I did. It was called Quest then. That's how long ago it was.
Oh, that's a long time ago. Yeah.
I love how they let the Seahawks walk on the concrete outside.
Yeah.
Whether they did it real or not, or they just did the imprints, it's still pretty neat to see. So what else about this game on Sunday did you notice?
It was the first time, so week 1 for us, our offense wasn't clicking. Like, it was a really weird kind of setup for our offense. Our defense played well. The offense never got really any sort of traction. They asked, I think, a lot of ways too much of Sam Darnold. To your point, Rich, bringing in a new quarterback. He had a career year, and everyone's kind of expecting him to fall off the cliff again. I never, when they brought in Sam, I was one of the more enthusiastic individuals about it. I liked Geno when he was in Seattle, but I always thought Geno had kind of limitations to his game, and some people really wanted to look past those. Like in Seattle, and I'll give you guys a kind of a retrospect of what Seattle looked like with Geno. You either had on one side of the bell curve, everyone absolutely hated Geno Smith, could not stand him, never could live up to what Russ did. Like, he was horrible. Then you had this other side of the bell curve where Geno Smith was a top 5 quarterback. He could lead this team to the Super Bowl. You just got to put the pieces around him. And then there was a group of us that kind of hovered in the middle, where it was like, okay, we understand what Geno is. He's a above average starter in the league. He's like a top 20 to 15 NFL quarterback. He's going to win you some games, but he's also going to cost you and lose you some games. And the one game that drives me nuts from last year was our loss to the Rams at home, where if we win that game, we're in the playoffs and the Rams aren't, because we'll have the tiebreaker. And Geno threw 2 crucial interceptions that, cost us the game essentially in the red zone. And so when, the whole thing came out that Pete Carroll was coming back, I kind of had said to some people, I was like, I think Geno's going to go to Vegas. I think he's going to go play for Pete. He loves Pete. And I don't think John Schneider's fully committed to giving a 35-year-old a 3-year deal and a bunch of money with like a 3-year sample size. Okay, that's great, but he's going to be 38 by the time the contract's over. Like, that's a lot of money to pay for that type of player. So when Sam Darnold became a viable option, they traded Geno, and I knew when they traded Geno that Sam was the guy, because I knew John from the draft process when Sam was coming out loved him. I went, you've reset your QB room by 10 years. You've gone and got an offensive coordinator that fits and understands Sam, and Sam's had some previous exposure to. It's a system that he's comfortable in, that you saw his career year in from Kevin O'Connell, this West Coast system. This could really work. But the key with Sam Darnold is don't make him win every game for you. If he has to win a half, great. like this past week, Sam struggled. The thing I love about Sam is he's probably one of the more even-keeled NFL quarterbacks mentally. Throws 2 interceptions. One of them, the one to Jalen Ramsey was just a bad throw, bad read. Know your, personnel and stuff. The second one, I fault more Clint Kubiak for a horrible play design and decision on 4th and 1 to, hey, let's run a play action boot to our left side, ask our fullback to try and chop somebody out in the flat and not really give our QB any options. That one, I'm kind of like, I give that more on the coaching and that side of things more than I give it to the quarterback. Yes, he still threw the ball, but you didn't really give him any options. How he bounced back in the second half, though, is what I think is more indicative of where Sam Darnold is in his career now. He can come back from those, throw 2 touchdowns, throw some amazing passes, that slice up a defense. I think his best play of the game wasn't a touchdown throw or even a deep throw. It was him getting out of that sack on 3rd down, that spin move he got out and dumped the ball to Barner in the flat. Barner turns it into a 1st down. We go down the field and Walker punches in that last touchdown to kind of ice the game for us. If Sam Darnold doesn't make that play, that still puts, the punt team comes on. Maybe the Steelers go down the field and this game becomes 24-21, and it's way more interesting down the last 5 minutes of the third quarter or fourth quarter. But it's things like that. And so for me, I think what we saw in the second half of this game against you guys is more of what our offense will look like. The balance in the run game, the play action pass, not getting too pass heavy. And that was the thing, that was huge for us this week was our first game, we barely called any under center offense. Like nothing. It was majority gun. This game, we went to be 60% under center, and we saw the difference in our run game. Ken Walker came alive, and he hasn't really been alive since last year, week 1 versus Denver, for all intents and purposes.
Now, who do you like more? Do you like Walker or Charbonnet?
That currently is the $1 million question in Seattle right now.
Or do you like the 1-2 punch?
I like the 1-2 punch. I think they both have things that give them an edge in certain areas. Like K9, I think talent-wise is probably the more talented running back. And I don't think it's much to anyone's, to the naked eye, you can see that. He's faster, he's more explosive, he's twitchier. But I think sometimes for Kenneth Walker, he's always looking for the home run hit, and he won't settle for singles. And he's even mentioned that himself, that, every time I've touched the ball, I try to score. Well, sometimes the play design isn't just, and that's fine, but it gets you into trouble sometimes. Like last year, we saw Ken Walker do a run play, and he jump cut like 3 times trying to find that perfect lane to hit and go for 60. And it's like, no, just hit it up in there and get 5 yards. That's what the design is. And so I think if that's the one thing I think Seattle still has to figure out with this offense is how to have Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker truly be a 1-2 punch where they're both factors in the game, because Charbonnet in this game had more carries but only had 10 yards. Walker had 13 carries for 100 and so on, and was way more the crucial piece of the offense. You got to find a way to balance them both out, and they both kind of have their strengths and their weaknesses. If, you balance them out, that way, you actually have a true 1-2 punch. Right now, you kind of have a who's hot, give them the ball situation.
Bryce,
No.
you're super question here. This is our Niners guy on the channel.
Saints guy.
Or Saints guy, I'm sorry.
Haas, I would love to come on. I just can't, unfortunately, after this, because I've got to go coach a football practice in about 30 minutes. But I have no problem coming on either tomorrow or like Friday afternoon. So hit me up on Twitter or whatever, and I will get back to you for sure, man. I'd love to talk Seahawks with you.
I'll put it in a group chat so you guys can find each other. I texted him. I was like, "Hey, did you see? I saw you reposted this, but did you see we have a Seattle guy?" And he's like, "No."
So Bryce, I mean, my biggest thing with Sam Darnold when he came in, he was with the Jets, and the only guy that he had in the entire run he was there that was worth anything was Garrett Wilson.
Yep.
He got Breece Hall a little later, but okay, Garrett Wilson was the only good receiver he ever had out there. Then he goes to Minnesota, has the best receiver in football, and arguably one of the best number 2s in Jordan Addison. Plus, he has TJ Hawkinson. And oh, by the way, he's got Aaron Jones hanging out over there and all that kind of stuff. So he had weapons coming out of his ears. Then he comes to Seattle, and it's kind of in between.
Yeah.
You got JSN, you got Cooper Kupp, which is a definite upgrade from the Jets, but it's not the Vikings. Tight end, nowhere close to TJ Hawkinson. The running game, though, you could say is arguably as good or better than what Minnesota was. So that was why I was curious. To me, I didn't see him going all the way back to seeing ghosts and all that kind of stuff. But I figured there would be a little bit of a regression.
Yes.
And we may see that as the season goes on, but do you think that they're going to, because I know they used Milroe week 1 a little bit. Week 2, he was the emergency quarterback against Pittsburgh. Do you think they're going to try and work Milroe in more as the season goes on? So just in case they can scoot him in there as the future?
I think it's that's a really interesting, conversation right now I'm having with some of the fellow Seahawk content creators that I talk with and stuff. And it's the whole Milroe discussion is really interesting because everyone kind of wants to anoint Milroe as the future. And I think there's a chance he could be the future. Oh, hi, Amy. Nice to you join. It could be he could be the future. Now, the thing I'll say with Darnold is, and to your point, Rich, you're kind of spot on where I am with him, where I think what he did in Minnesota is the absolute maxed out ceiling of Sam Darnold. In my opinion, it is. I also don't think he's going to go and fall down to what he was with the Jets because he's just got a better surrounding cast than what he had there because the New York Jets are an absolute dumpster fire of an organization. But the thing I said, with Sam, I said a good year for Sam Darnold and one I think Seattle fans should kind of be happy with and even maybe like, yeah, this is good. This is what we need is a guy that comes in, completes between, 67 and 69% of his passes, which he's roughly at right now, throws for between, 33 and 3,700 yards, 27 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. Like that would be a fantastic year because that's a little bit down from what he did with Minnesota, but it's not bottoming out and being horrible. Like that is a good NFL quarterback season. Like that's not something to go, oh yeah, that's horrible. Like, and especially if you're got a run game that works. And that's the thing I'll say with the offensive line here in Seattle now that they're putting together and the running game. I think that has a chance to be better than what Minnesota had because the thing everyone wants to turn to is his last 2 games in Minnesota last year, the Detroit game and the loss to the Rams in the playoffs. They could not run the ball. Minnesota completely was unable to run the football. And Sam Darnold is one of the most effective passers off of play action and having an effective running game. If you give him those tools and don't ask him to drop back 45 times in the game and throw the ball all over the yard, Sam Darnold's going to be a good NFL quarterback, an above average starter. I'd say top 15 NFL quarterback. If you say to him, hey, we need you to throw it 45 times and go win us the game, Sam Darnold's maybe between 15 and 20 on that list of NFL quarterbacks. And that's kind of how I look at Sam. I think with his age, if Sam plays well this year and next year, there's a chance Sam Darnold gets a contract extension in Seattle and Milroe's still not coming to be the franchise guy. I don't think they know how to use Milroe right now, is what I'll say. And why I say that is, for me as a coach myself, when I get a cool gadget player that has something that's different than everything else, and I want to force him the ball and get him the ball, I don't know how to get him the ball yet. Like, what am I going to do in certain situations to get him this? And when they brought him out against the 49ers, it was one of the more infuriating moments for me because I'm going, this isn't the time. Your offense still isn't clicking properly as it normally should function with Sam Darnold. You're bringing him in on second down. You're running a shotgun QB draw, which the 49ers, you could watch them from the all-22 kind of sit there, look at each other. Fred Warner's a great linebacker. He's intelligent. He's going, cool. They're sending K9 out into the side flat. Cool. He's either going to throw it to K9 and we'll just rally to make the tackle and he'll lose 3 yards, or he's likely running a QB draw up the middle. So we'll just tell our D-line to pinch in and stop the middle surge. Sure enough, what does he do? He looks to K9, doesn't like it, dives forward and gets, a yard.
Bryce, if they were to major interview here.
Yes, Haas, I am a fan of all Seattle sports teams, even the Supersonics, and I can't wait for them to come back. So on a side note, but the play I would have brought Milroe in, Rich, last week against the 49ers was the 4th down option or opportunity, I should say, where they kicked the field goal. 4th down and 1, you put Jalen Milroe out there, you put Zach Charbonnet and K9 with him, you run a read option, and you go, okay, now San Francisco, how are you going to defend this? Because you know he's going to run, but now we're running him off the edge with 2 of our best running backs in there. Now we've put you in a situation of you have to hope you're right, because if you commit too many guys outside, he gives the ball and K9 goes forward and gets a yard. And that's for me where I said, going into last week's game against the 49ers, I went, I don't know if you dress him because you don't know how to use him yet. You haven't seen enough teams. And like for me, I think as the season goes and they go against, more and more teams, they'll see different ways to use him and be like, hey, New Orleans this week, they really struggle in this area. We can use a couple of things that Jalen does really well in this area. And the thing is, Drew Lock's there in Seattle. Like, it would take Drew Lock and Sam Darnold both getting hurt for Milroe to see any real quarterbacking game action this year in Seattle.
Well, one thing, I mean, we can get you all kinds of Cordell Stewart tape because Jalen Milroe, when he was in college, to me, even seemed a whole lot like Cordell Stewart.
Yes.
And if the Seahawks can use him in that kind of a role, not necessarily even as a running back or as in a quarterback position, but even if they put him as a slot or as running an end around or that kind of thing, it gives you a whole nother option because the guy can run. I mean, he's not going to juke you out of your shoes, but if he gets open space, it's over. He will hit an open hole. So, I was kind of thinking of him that way, but I was really curious, and I like what you were saying, but I was just curious what you guys thought in terms of where you were thinking he was going to be.
Like, my ideal thing that I would love to see them do with Jalen Milroe is something that we saw the Carolina Panthers do when they had Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams, and Cam Newton, and Greg Olsen at tight end, which was when they got in those double tight sets with the 2 split backs in gun, you had like a Ted Ginn, Steve Smith even on the outside as a 1 receiver. And you basically said, okay, we're going to run QB power or crossbuck, or we're going to fake it and we're going to leak our tight end down the seam and basically because Jalen throws a nice deep ball. You can do those kind of things with him. And that's kind of the sub package I would use Jalen Milroe in is, hey, it's 3rd and less than 3 and we're inside the 20. This is where it's 2nd and less than 3. This is where we insert that at that particular moment where a defense has to respect that. We have 2 good tight ends in Barner and Arroyo, especially Arroyo as an athlete. Like, he's a hard cover for a safety and for a linebacker. Bring them in. Now make them go, okay, how are you going to stop Jalen Milroe's speed, to your point, Rich, on the outside if we even roll him outside? And we've got Charbonnet and K9 in the backfield with him, and we've got Torrey Horton or JSN one-on-one on the outside. Like, you can't not commit anybody to the box, because if you don't, we're just going to give it inside and run QB power all day long.
Yes. I don't know. These Steelers, these Steelers are gonna be tough, man. I don't know. They play like they do this week, it's gonna be a long season.
Well, and I mean, it didn't help a whole lot that the Steelers defense. It seemed like every time I was listening to the game, we didn't get it here. I had to deal with those guys with the rating on the side of their helmet. But what ended up happening, every time I turn around, I hear, Highsmith is going to the locker room, or this one's going to the locker room, or that one's going to the locker room. And I'm like, holy crap, what are they doing? Setting live rounds off on the field, or what the hell's going on here? They remember I said this before the season started. That defense had to stay healthy. We're at week 2. We're having issues already. Highsmith's out, 4 weeks, 4 to 6. So that's not a good thing at all. We're already missing Harmon. Until and unless that defense gets healthy, we're gonna have problems. Now, when they're healthy, they're the best defense in football on man to man. But until they are healthy, we're gonna have to score a lot of points to win ball games. There's no reason why we should have given up that many to Seattle. and there's no reason why we shouldn't have given up as many as we did to the Jets.
Look, Kenneth Walker runs
Even
like he did on Sunday. He's hard to stop. And
He is.
And it really looked like Charbonnet wore that defense down in that first half. I don't care if he got no yards or not. He's still a bowling ball.
Yes. And that's the thing. Like, the one thing I'll say about Kenneth Walker that was really nice to see in this game was he was one cut laterally if the hole wasn't initially there, and then he was north-south and exploding through the hole. And Charbonnet was a punishing, back, and that's what Charbonnet does do well. The thing for me that I'll say that surprised me about the Steelers, given the age of some of the guys in the secondary, how much man cover one they went to in this game versus a younger, maybe even some faster players. And like, I look at Torrey Horton's, touchdown that he got. It was cover one, even maybe cover zero with Jalen Ramsey, outside leveraged on a guy in a condensed split. And it was the same play Garrett Wilson scored on the week before. Like, Seattle saw that play and that how they play it and that look.
They did.
And they ran essentially the same play. And they ran it again later in the game when they got JSN on the deep post on Ramsey. They basically ran Cooper Kupp underneath. The safety comes crashing down on Cooper Kupp and leaves Ramsey one-on-one with JSN to the middle of the field. And JSN, like, this is again where I think I've said this for a while. I loved what DK brought to Seattle. He was a freak of nature when he got drafted. You don't see guys that big run that fast. But the thing was, I never looked at DK as a complete receiver. There were certain things in the route tree he couldn't run, and that was just due to his size and his skill set. JSN may not have the top end speed, but JSN is probably one of the best route runners right now in the NFL. He's just so smooth in how he gets in and out of his cuts. And sometimes smooth is fast and fast is smooth. And if you're not a smooth route runner, you may be the fastest guy in the world, but you're not going to get open because you just can't get away from guys because they don't need to be faster than you. They just need to be able to stay with you and where you're going to go. And that's where I look at JSN. Like, he made Jalen Ramsey, and I know Jalen Ramsey's not in his prime, but Jalen Ramsey is still one of the better corners at covering in the NFL. DK could never get away from Jalen. He struggled with Jalen. Yes, he had some games where it worked, and he had big games here and there, but Jalen was always a thorn when he was a Ram for us. JSN had over 100 yards again in a back-to-back game, and he lined up against Ramsey quite a bit. That's where I look at Seattle and when I think they made the right move. And I think, you guys will enjoy DK Metcalf he's a very passionate player, but, I was shocked DK caught his touchdown the way he did because he struggled with those in Seattle. That was not a DK Metcalf forte, where it's kind of the one-on-one jump ball.
Yeah, you guys got him. I was hugely in favor.
I didn't know we were in a hat game, Bryce. I got the Boston Scallion, the pesky style, and you're wearing a Seattle hat. I didn't know we were in a hat game.
Oh, Seahawk hat game is my thing. I've got behind me up on the shelf over that way, the shelf. I've got a bunch of different Seahawk hats. I collect hats. That's my thing.
I collected the hold on, Rich. We'll get back to your conversation.
You're good. No, you're good.
I collected the football mugs.
Oh, okay, yep.
And they were the glass ones.
Yeah.
I was up to 15 teams, and I was at work one day and someone stole them all. And I know it had to be someone I known because the only one they left was the Steeler Hall of Fame one.
Well, at least they left you that one.
Yeah, but I mean, there's like I don't even know if I actually got mine at, I guess, Lumen now, but I got my mug at Lumen's, and I don't know if they still sell them there or not.
I think they do in the pro shop. I think they still sell their like the kind of collector's mugs and stuff there like that. So
let me know. I didn't see anything online because I was going to order one, and then I didn't see anything. I was like, But that was just me. Go ahead, Rich. Back to your question.
No. It's all good. I mean, I honestly just was throwing another point out there to kind of get a reaction. But it seems like the way the Steelers, if the Steelers could have run the ball at all on Sunday,
this was their best running game of the year.
And they still didn't do much, but they have 80 yards.
Well, I mean, Seattle had three players all over 100 yards each.
I understand it. That's why I'm saying, I mean, if the Steelers had 150 yards rushing, I think, again, we see a different result. The team I don't know that the team, and this is weird to say about a Steelers football team. I
Tomlin
don't
sucks.
know. He's the biggest Tomlin hater. He probably wanted Tomlin fired after they won the Super Bowl.
I wanted Tomlin fired after he couldn't win a damn playoff game.
We've had this debate 1,000 times.
Okay, you're an outsider, Bryce, but you're also a football guy. So now I feel they should have let him go after the 2017 season.
So it's really funny you say that. I thought Seattle should have moved on from Pete Carroll after the 2017 season. And the reason I say this, and this is, there's a point where I feel like, like if you look at Pete Carroll's run in Seattle and Mike Tomlin's run in Pittsburgh, they're very similar in a lot of ways. 2 Super Bowl appearances in both, I think, right? For Tomlin, won one, lost one. Pete Carroll won one, lost one. They never let their teams really get horrible. Like Pete had Tomlin's never been below 500, I believe, for you guys. Pete's had a couple seasons where
first season was a losing one.
Yeah, I think the lowest Pete ever had.
No,
he was five.
Tomlin has never had a losing season.
That's the one thing. He is the A+ version of, in some respects, Jeff Fisher, who, was always considered Mr. 500. Tomlin's never had a losing season. So Pete Carroll, I think, had 2 of them where they went 6-10 one year and they went 7-9 another year.
But you're saying 97, Bryce? You wanted to let him go, or 07? You wanted to let him go?
2017. When you guys
2017.
So Seattle after the 2017 season, the Rams and McVay had kind of come in. They kicked the shit out of Seattle, and Seattle was like 52-7 or something. The game, it was ridiculous. It was the worst Seattle had been beaten at home in the Carroll era, and it was one of the things for me when I looked at that game. We had Darrell Bevell. We were coming off, 2 years after our Super Bowl debacle, where we lost the game to the Patriots, and it seemed like Pete's message had kind of hit a wall with some of the Legion of Boom guys, and this is when Seattle kind of had that reset to the let Russ cook era. And I love Pete Carroll, and I 100%, appreciate everything Pete did for us in Seattle. But it was kind of one of those things for me where I looked at 2017, I went, is this time to move in a new direction? And I know there was conversation at the end of the year that Paul Allen, the owner, rest in peace, had kind of come to Pete and said, like, you need to fix this or you're going to be gone. Like, we need to get back to winning football games. And Pete had kind of a resurgence, and the team got back to being, the let Russ cook era kicked in, and Brian Schottenheimer was hired, and we played Dallas in the playoffs and lost a game we shouldn't have lost. And so, Pete kind of went through this second resurgence of his career. But when I look at Mike Tomlin, it's kind of the same thing where you guys have kind of, where your floor is now, but are you ever going to get above that certain point where you're kind of still behind Baltimore to an extent? You guys haven't been able to get a quarterback in Pittsburgh. Will Howard, I think, could be a guy. Like, I really liked Will Howard coming out of Ohio State. He was one of my top-rated quarterbacks this year. But, you've gone with Aaron Rodgers. You went, the Justin Fields, Russell Wilson experiment last year. I just, I look at Pete finally decided it was time to move on, and he left. And he stepped back. He let John Schneider, pick Mike McDonald and go that because he realized it wasn't working anymore the way that they wanted to do things. I think that's going to be the case for Tomlin. It'll be a Tomlin decides to step away before the Steelers fan base or Steelers organization decides to let him go, because he's had so much success. He's kept you guys you haven't had a year where I look at the Steelers and go, God, they are one of the worst teams. They're just lucking into these wins. Like, there's games where the Pittsburgh Steelers still look like one of the better franchises and are still one of the better franchises in the NFL, top to bottom. It's just, is he going to be able to bring you back above that? Is he, is Arthur, the hires of coordinators and quarterbacks and, personnel decisions going to still be something that eventually the team can overcome and get back to being a perennial top contender in the division? Like, you guys are in one of the toughest divisions of football with the Ravens and with the Bengals, when the Bengals don't lose Joe Burrow for 3 months out of the year every other season. But I respect Mike Tomlin a lot because he's been able to keep the Steelers from kind of falling off at all to a depth that is very hard to come back from. But he's also kind of kept you guys in what I call purgatory. You're good enough to consider to be in the playoff conversation or in the wild card round or just, get out of the wild card round, but you're never horrible enough to really get a top end talented player, potentially like a quarterback, to really help reset the franchise in some respects. And it's a tough place to be. It's where we've been in Seattle. And sometimes you got to luck into a guy like we, lucked into Gino being good for 3 years. And now we pivoted to Sam, but it's a very interesting thing. I will say this. I want Seattle to either rename the stadium to something Pete, because Pete's the most iconic coach in Seattle Seahawks history, or they need to, what they do at the Mariners at T-Mobile Park or Safeco Field, as some people recall to it, have put up statues of like Ken Griffey Jr., Edgar Martinez, and so on the outside in Ichiro. They need to put a statue of Pete outside of Lumen Field. Like, Pete is the most iconic coach in Seahawk history and brought this first city its title and took them to another Super Bowl and had the most successful run. But the thing I'll appreciate about Pete the most is he knew when it was kind of time to walk away. I thought it was 2017. He hung on. They got better. Then they started to fall off again. And the second kind of dip they had led to Pete finally walking away.
And see, I wouldn't be, if and when he ever has a losing season, I think he would go. But my co-host over here would rather see this team spend 5 years at 3-14, get number one draft picks that you're taking a complete crapshoot at, maybe get to a Super Bowl instead of spending those 5 years contending for or getting into the playoffs. Whether we lose in the first round or not, getting in there and winning games.
Listen, he's brought this city down to believe the city of 500 is an excellent town. We're not the city of champions anymore. We're the city of mediocrity. It's a horrible slogan. The standard is the standard. Where the standard is what, 500 and better. It's crazy. It's not Pittsburgh. We have the Pirates that brought us down so far. It's not even funny. We don't need
the first two places that needs fixed, though, Adam, is in the NHL and in MLB. That's the first two places that needs fixed because those are losing teams. The Pirates and the Penguins got to get their crap together first.
Yeah,
the Steelers are winning.
Fair.
The Steelers are winning games. They're making the playoffs. The Pirates and the Penguins, the Penguins occasionally make the playoffs. The Pirates haven't made 12 years.
That's expected, though, Rich.
I understand it's expected.
It's kind of funny
those
this
two teams
discussion you guys are having,
first.
though. This discussion occurred in Seattle, like the last year. Like when Seattle last year missed the playoffs and everything, it was okay. When we reset this, do we reset for we're going to take, 2-3 steps back to take, or 1 step back to take 2 steps forward? And it was a real discussion in Seattle. And, Amy brought it up too. It was our fan base had them all of last season on it. And I was of the idea of
you can kind of. I don't know who he is. Your dad by chance, or is this just his name on the show?
I think it's his name on the thing, but Daddy Dennis is one of my guys over there on the Hawks eye, and it's really interesting. I think this: if you guys don't win a wild card playoff game this year, I think there'll be talks within your organization on what is the next step. Because I think they'll look at it and they'll go, and they'll sit down with Mike and be like, "Hey, how are you going to get us back to, your point of where you guys were the team of champions and where you were constantly competing for the division, title?"
We have one playoff win since 11.
Yeah, and that's something even in Seattle, like we've struggled, right? Our last playoff win came in 2019 when we beat Philadelphia. So it's one of those things where you kind of go through this cycle of purgatory in the NFL where you're good enough not to be shitty, but you're not good enough to be great, and you're kind of stuck there. And the scary thing is, to your point, Rich, you could do the fall back and take those steps back and end up being like I can't believe I'm saying this, a Cleveland Browns or a Jacksonville Jaguars, where we take all these, or New York Jets, we take all these steps back and we keep getting these draft picks and it doesn't materialize, because you also got to find the coach. And that's something I will give John Schneider so much credit for in his, tenure in Seattle is he got paired with Pete Carroll. It was great. This was such a crucial move on hiring the right coach after Pete Carroll. Like, you could not screw this up. And he came down to waiting it out, and going after Mike Macdonald after a bunch of teams had already hired, the Dan Quinns, and everybody in Seattle thought, hey, Seattle's going to go after Dan Quinn. He's running a great defense down there in Dallas again. He's the logical choice. The ties with Schneider, he's going to be the guy. And they kind of kept waiting. And then all of a sudden it was Mike Macdonald. And I remember watching Seattle play Mike Macdonald's defense that year in Baltimore, and we got absolutely shellacked. It was like 37-3 or something. And it was interesting just talking with beat reporters and people I know that are connected and my sources, and like when Mike Macdonald got hired and stuff. And the one thing they said was the amount of personnel people from the Seahawks that were absolutely blown away, and the players that were blown away by what they saw from Mike Macdonald's defense sold John Schneider on, if we are to go in that direction, this is the guy I want to go after. And we're now reaping the benefits in Seattle of them making that decision and going that way. So it's all about the time that you do it and all those things, because you can go and hire a new coach and it can be an absolute dumpster fire. Look at Chicago right now. And I know it's early in Ben Johnson's tenure there with the Bears, but he was Mr. Highly touted and everyone thought he was going to be the next, big time thing. And some people now think he's Josh McDaniels 2.0 in Chicago already, where he's going to be a guy that's always going to be a better coordinator than a head coach. Everyone's looking for the next Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Kevin O'Connell, or on the defensive side, they're looking for the, next Mike Macdonald. Now, it's a hard thing to do. Like, I'll be honest, you guys in Pittsburgh, if you fire Mike Tomlin, you are not going to go and hire an offensive court, like a highly touted offensive guru. It's not your style. I could see, if I was to throw a name out there right now to replace Mike Tomlin in the NFL, it would be Jesse Minter, who is the current defensive coordinator for the LA Chargers. I still hate the fact of the LA Chargers. They should be the San Diego Chargers, but Jesse Minter and what he's doing with that the LA defense there, it's close to what Mike Macdonald's doing. He comes from the same tree, coached with Mike at Michigan. Like, that would be the guy I would peg if I was going, hey, the Steelers are going to go get a new coach. That's the guy they're going to go get.
There you go, Rich. I never had an answer for you, but there you go. He always asks me who, and I'm like, who wouldn't be lined up at the door?
Yeah, you could have all kinds of guys lined up at the door. It doesn't matter if they're not any good.
The reason I would say
fit.
Yeah. The reason I say Jesse Minter, he comes from the Harbaugh coaching tree, which is tough, been through the AFC North. He went to Michigan, coached at Michigan for Big Ten football, which, again, you have to be tough and stuff. And you look at what he's doing with that Chargers defense right now. They shut down the Chiefs in Brazil. They're beat up on the Raiders.
Thank you.
That's where, for me, I think he does win. Yeah, I'll say that. Like, Tomlin still does win. You guys aren't,
Yeah, but we're sitting in the same place come February.
It's true, and that's why I think it'll be interesting.
Not to be critical at them, but they haven't won a playoff game since 16, not 11. They won 2 games in 16. 2 playoff games.
Oh,
and 1 in 15.
All right, so he's still under 500 in the playoffs, though.
He is so are a ton of other head coaches that have had successful careers. Yes, the Landrys and the Shulas and that kind of stuff. Yeah, they've had winning records, but there's a lot of coaches out there that have losing records in postseason play.
All right, Bryce, I know you got to get out of here. You got to go. Who are you coaching tonight?
I'm coaching basically what would be the equivalent to like a junior college program down there. So, I'm coaching my junior college team basically.
Are you head coach or?
No, I'm an offensive coordinator. I'm assistant head coach, offensive coordinator. So, gotta get our offense going this week. We've struggled the first 2 weeks out of the gate here, so we got to get some consistency. I got to get the run game going. It's driving me nuts that our run game's not being very effective. So I got to get that going.
Maybe you got to go watch some highlights of the running backs and see where their strong points are.
This is a fair point. I might have to do that.
I feel some people do that for college kids coming into the pros to find out their strong points too.
They definitely do, for sure.
So I mean that could help. But Bryce, I know you got to run, and I'm grateful you came on. Coach Coots, get him. do the guys call you something different or just coach?
No, it's usually just coach, or Coach Coots is usually what I get out on the field when I'm out there. So it's generally kind of the way it is. If they call me anything else, there's a pretty good reason, or they've known me a while enough to call me something any else. But normally those are the two things.
Gotcha.
Very cool.
Well, Bryce, hopefully, did you follow back? I didn't look.
I think so. Yeah, I think I think I'm following you, Adam, on your end, and I'll make sure to follow back. But I appreciate you guys having me on, and anytime in the future, I'd love to come back on and talk more football with you guys and Seahawks and Steelers. If there's a matchup further down the line in the future here, who knows? Steelers and Seahawks may meet again at some point this season. We never know. They could meet in the Super Bowl if things all line up for both teams correctly. So
There you go.
That's a stretch, but Bryce,
weird things have happened.
Every Tuesday we run open mic. If you want to stop on by, it'd be 6:00 your time.
For sure, definitely.
It's usually a full house, just to let you know.
Sounds good.
But yeah, thank you for coming on, Bryce. Do you want to tell people how to get you?
Yeah, sure. So like the Hawk's Eye podcast on YouTube, can find me there. Can find me on Spotify as well under the same title, the Hawk's Eye podcast. And then I'm on Twitter at the Seahawks Eye. So if you ever want to DM me, shoot me a message or anything like that, ask any questions about the Hawks and what's going on or anything football related. Yeah, I'm always open to have a conversation about it. So again, guys, appreciate you having me on.
I'll set you up with Haas too. That way you can get a line their stuff up for tomorrow.
Perfect. Appreciate it.
But yeah, like I said, you got to find out your strong points of your running backs and go from there, boss.
Totally.
Yeah. So, well, Bryce, I thank you for coming on, and yeah, let's do it again. I'll let you know about open mic, and it's a good time over there, so, for the most part.
Sounds good, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, man.
Very cool, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. See you guys.
All right, Bryce.
See you later.
That was a good conversation.
Real good conversation.
I liked him. Anyway, Rich, do we got anything left in the tank, or are we ready to call it a day?
I know my tank's about at E right now. I don't know about you.
I'm at E too. I'm gonna hook up this new box thing I got. Hopefully it works.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm gonna be heading to bed. It's been a long week already, and it's only Wednesday.
Oh yeah, you got football, high school football. Rich covers high school football guys on Fridays.
Yeah, I messed up my knee the other day.
Again?
For a lot. Yeah, not to the degree as before, but I
didn't even notice my drink was like in the middle of the camera.
That's why, if you notice, I was doing those occasional grimaces on the air. I was trying to hide it as best I could. Every time my knee would spasm, I'd be like, and the eyeballs pop out of your head and that kind of thing.
Right. Hey, Rich, my neighbor used the, not to be well off topic, but we usually are for everyone that's still around, guys. Me and Rich, we talk Pittsburgh, but sometimes we drift away. My neighbor used the football knee and ankle thing that they use in the NFL, and it really helped him. I don't know if you want to maybe look into something like that, but I mean, it really helped him.
Well, I have on my orthotics with my AFO for my boots, they actually built in an orthotic to bring my foot and my leg and my knee even. Because my foot and my left foot pronates. So like my foot is here, my ankle is here. So when I step, it almost hits the ground. Well, when it does that, it torques the knee. every time I do it. And I've been doing a lot of like, getting out to go see my mom, getting out to do dinner with the wife on Thursdays and that kind of thing. And getting up on it and putting that torque on it and all that kind of thing, I'm kind of paying for it right now. So, but I understand. I do have one of those. I've had one of those braces. I think I've got it around here somewhere.
My neighbor said that
For the
like
knee.
helped save his life before he went under reconstructive knee surgery.
Yeah. And since I've had that sepsis, I'm automatically disqualified from knee replacement.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
Well, that
once you've had
sucks.
sepsis once, you're disqualified. I'm like, that's nice.
I didn't know that.
I didn't
But
either until they told me. So,
but hey, everyone, hit that like, subscribe button, guys. I know you can subscribe to Bryce's channel, but you can also subscribe to our channel over at Driving to the Top Productions on YouTube. Has my dog on the cover, and yeah, you can also follow me at Sports Talking It on Twitter. Right. I feel like Jason driving all around, like not knowing where the thing is. At Sports Talking It on Twitter, guys. Driving to the Top on Twitter as well. But you can mainly get me at Sports Talking It, guys. And everybody, I thank you all for tuning in. And Rich, take it home.
you can get me on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it this month, at BigRich8371. Or you can get me on Facebook. My name, Rich Richardson. Love to get a chance to talk to you about anything, everything sports related. Wednesday nights, every Wednesday, we do this thing at 9:00 Eastern, 8:00 Central, 6:00 for those of y'all out on the West Coast. Tuesday night, open mic night, same time frame. A bunch of the guys from the team get together and we chop it up. And we get into some pretty good discussions. Had some real good discussions yesterday about the pennant races and about week 2 of the NFL. And then Monday night, I do a NASCAR show called Two Tire Change, 7 Eastern, 6 Central. So that'd be 4 on the West Coast, where we get into all the things about NASCAR and the playoffs currently. So appreciate everybody being a part of this thing tonight. Thanks to everybody that watched and listened. Thanks to Bryce. Adam, anything else before we go, man?
No, just kind of glad I came out of my funk. That's it. That debate last night got me out of my funk. Let me know it's still safe to do these debate things. It really did, Rich. You have no idea. Like this whole Charlie. Okay. This whole Charlie thing, has thrown me completely off.
I understand.
But,
I do understand. But we'll do it again next week, 9:00 Eastern, man.
Sunday he does get the Purple Heart, so in case you didn't know.
Yeah, and he's getting some sort of congressional medal too.
Yeah.
Congressional Medal of Valor. Is that right?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. But anyways, next week, 9:00 Eastern, 8:00 Central, right here. Till next week. For Adam, I'm Big Rich. So long, everybody.
All right.